King Solomon was promoted as a world ruler. What we appear to have here is a succession battle, an unusual succession battle, but a succession battle nonetheless. And in this succession battle, what appears to be going on is an overthrow, a supplanting of this global dynamic that has been created by King Solomon. And so King Solomon's descendants clearly understand themselves as descendants of the king and heirs to this throne of David. However, there is another claimant for the throne. And because of this claimant for this throne, Solomon is cast in the light of the great pretender. Now, why is Solomon understood as the great pretender? This is not a global understanding of Solomon. This is an analysis of the situation with Solomon and a conclusion that has been drawn based upon that analysis. Solomon, in the narrative, lays claim to something that is not actually his. And specifically, as indicated in Merriam-Webster, he is laying claim to a throne for which he does not have a just title. Even though his father names him the king, the father, based upon what many people refer to as laws, statutes, and commandments, did not have the power to make Solomon the king. And he was also violating the law by giving Solomon this birthright position and this blessing. Solomon is a younger brother, and therefore he was not next in line to the throne. The details for this battle for succession can be found in 1 Kings. What's interesting when you look at the narrative is that there is a similar dynamic going on in this situation to the situation with Jacob and Esau. And so Solomon's mother intervenes. You know, her name is Bathsheba. She intervenes to make sure that Solomon gets placed on the throne in lieu of his older brother. And so she does some conniving along with her counselor in order to make sure that Solomon would rise to the throne in place of his brother, who was a more legitimate heir to the throne. And so what ends up happening here is that David ultimately ends up actually violating the law by placing Solomon on the throne and then giving Solomon a blessing, a birthright, and a blessing that is inconsistent with the law. And so Solomon has taken a position and has received a blessing that is inconsistent with his actual position. And so he's not the actual heir apparent. He is not the heir to the throne. And so therefore, based upon the law, he is illegitimately holding that position. And all of his descendants would be illegitimately holding this position. Now, some might even argue that Jacob is illegitimately holding a position and that the entire position belongs to Ishmael, not even Esau, but Ishmael. However, we're just going to be dealing with this particular set of circumstances right now. In order to better understand this battle for succession, we are going to turn to the favorite book of many people, which is the book of Deuteronomy. We are in chapter 21, and it is on the right of the firstborn. And it indicates at 15, if a man has two wives, which of course David had more than one wife, and he loves one but not the other, he was willing to do almost anything for Bathsheba. So she was understood as the loved one. And both bear him sons, but the firstborn is the son of the wife he does not love. When he wills his property to his sons, he must not give the rights of the firstborn to the son of the wife he loves in preference to his actual firstborn, the son of the wife he does not love. It's as if this was written in anticipation of David, Bathsheba, and Solomon. He must acknowledge the son of his unloved wife as the firstborn by giving him a double share of all he has. That son is the first sign of his father's strength. The right of the firstborn belongs to him. Now, Solomon was not only not the firstborn, he was not the secondborn or the thirdborn. And so he had quite a way to go before he got to this top position. However, based upon what took place with David, Bathsheba, and Nathan, Solomon miraculously became the king. And so when he became the king, he supplanted the entities that should have been ruling in place of him. And so he did not have a right to this throne that he had assumed. Many people are doing a number of gymnastics in order to position Joseph as the heir to this throne through descendancy from Solomon. But as we've already pointed out, that is a cursed line. And so Joseph is not entitled to assume that position. It's not something that he can occupy. It's not a right that he actually has. It doesn't matter what King James illustrations might indicate. It's just not there according to scripture. And I know a number of people and a number of religious entities and collectives are making claims to the contrary, along with the contravention of the virgin birth narrative. And so there is a need for many people to position Joseph as the biological father of Jesus, because there is a need to, get this, supplant Mary and Jesus. What's happening here is Nathan would have the higher right to the throne. And so Mary is presented by Luke as the descendant of Nathan. This is substantial because in this narrative, Mary is the only one with the right to the throne. Joseph is ancillary. He's actually insignificant in terms of this narrative because he doesn't have a right to this throne. Mary, according to Luke, is the only one with this particular right. And so with Mary, we have the supplanting of Solomon. Yes, the supplanting of Solomon. And so what's happening here in this narrative is that the entity known as Jesus comes along and overthrows the entity known as Solomon. And so, in an indirect way, what's happening with Tupac hailing Mary is he is identifying Mary as the supreme entity in terms of this succession dynamic. And so he has placed Mary in this exalted, in this elevated position. And her name, in and of itself, indicates exalted. It indicates that she is the head. It indicates that she is the ruler. She is the reina. She is the Queen Mary. And so when Queen Mary, by descent, gives birth, she is giving birth to the only legitimate heir to the throne according to the narrative of Luke. Even if you look at the narrative that is earlier, you still don't have a legitimate claim to this throne by Joseph, and so therefore there can be no heirship coming through Joseph. Now, this may be upsetting to many people because there is a narrative that many people have about the role of Mary, about the position of Mary, and then some individuals really need this not to be a quote unquote virgin birth, and they really need Jesus to be descended biologically from Joseph for whatever reason. And again, some entities are very invested in the Solomon narrative. However, what it looks like when looking at this in totality is that Solomon is ruling or reigning, his descendants had been ruling or reigning in place of the actual heirs to the throne. And so Solomon is sort of the anti-entity that is known as Jesus. So that's what this battle is all about. And with respect to Jesus, the role that Jesus is playing is this role of supplanter. So Jesus is overthrowing whatever this world order is, this world dynamic that has come down through Solomon. Jesus appears, and he is not just this baby in Mary's arms, but he is considered the overthrower, the ultimate overthrower in this particular narrative.